Welcome to another installment of Friday Q&A. I hope you're all fantastic. To everybody who submitted a question on last week's Q&A, thank you so much. I hope I can get to as many of those questions as possible. As always, if you like what I do on the channel and you want to support it directly, there are links to the music that I make and my Patreon in the video description. Let's get straight into this week's Q&A. Let's start with a spicy one, my favorite ACDC album. I cut my teeth on the Power Age album. I was given a Power Age tab book not long after I'd started playing guitar, and my dad owned most of the ACDC albums, so I got stuck into that, in particular the song Sin City. That's one of my go-to riffs if I'm playing any type of Gibson style guitar into any type of Marshall style amp. Inevitably Sin City is going to come out. Great song, and that to me is ACDC right before they became global phenomena. You know, it's got that right mix to me between Angus and Malcolm's guitar interplay and the kind of raw sound that people would associate with that era of ACDC. I think Bon Scott's lyrics are probably some of the best Bon Scott lyrics on any ACDC album. Just incredibly tongue-in-cheek and clever, and often just very funny and ironic. And, you know, I think it's kind of the ACDC fans' favorite ACDC album as well, even though, you know, they've got other albums which were a little bit more popular than that one. Power Age is probably the one for me. What's going on behind me? Why do I keep changing all this stuff? The racks, the guitars. A few eagle-eyed viewers have noticed that. Basically, I just do it to see if you're actually paying attention and watching. So 10 points for noticing that I do change stuff back there. I also just move things around, as, you know, I might pull out an amp to record something with it and then put something in its place and, you know, put the amp in another place, because when you have this much gear kicking around in one place, you inevitably end up stacking lots of things on top of lots of other things. So yeah, it's probably just more of an insight into the daily madness that goes on here, where I'm trying different pieces of gear and moving them around. But well done. A double banger question on here from Shahar. This one is, do I have an XFX3 Turbo? No, I don't. And why would anybody need that much power? I've got an XFX3 Mark I, and it basically does everything I would ever want it to do from a horsepower perspective. Plus it's got a whole bunch of ins and outs, which basically means it's like the brain of my studio. It manages all the different ins and outs from rack stuff and pedals and my interface, and I love that. Having said that, one application I can imagine for a turbo is if you're in a band with two guitar players and a bass player and you want to really max out two guitar presets and a bass guitar preset, you can almost definitely do that on a turbo. We've done heaps of ragdoll gigs where I'm running through my full signal chain for my guitar and Ryan's run through a bass signal chain through a single XFX, and that is really, really handy. I imagine with a turbo, you could take that one step further. Speaking of tasty gear, the Strymon Dig in Midnight Black looks pretty awesome. I'm gonna admit, I'm a massive fan of the Dig being pink. You know, it's inspired by 80s rack delays, and in keeping with the general 80s theme, it's in an outrageous pink color. I love it. I have no problem with the color pink on a pedal, but I know for some people, they're not super into that. Everybody has different tastes and different opinions, and that's what makes playing guitar and looking at pedals at your feet fun. And the Midnight Black pedals definitely look pretty awesome. I'm kind of tempted to pick one up now, even though I know it will sound exactly like a Dig, and even though I put a whole bunch of time into making my XFX3 behave and sound like the Dig. Absolutely fantastic pedal, one of my favorite delays ever. But the question is, because it's Midnight Black, will the delay sound darker? Where do I stand on the Tonewood debate? I'm going to put myself down. I forget who wrote this in an interview. I was reading a Premier Guitar article years ago, and this person described themselves as a mojo agnostic. And I absolutely love that. I feel like I've mentioned this before. I should find that interview somewhere on the internet and properly credit this person, because I love that. The whole Tonewood debate, I mean, it's interesting, and from a scientific and cultural perspective, I find it interesting, but at the end of the day, I don't really care either way. I'm more in the business of playing guitar and getting tasty tones, and if I find a guitar that I like, that's inspiring and feels good in my hands, nowadays I try not to question it. I just roll with it. It's like when you're a little kid, you know, you just walk up to another little kid and it's like, hey, Do you like dinosaurs? We both like dinosaurs. We can be friends. Let's do this. That's how I like to approach guitars. My pick of choice, this bad boy, little guy right here. Let's focus on that. Yeah, the 1.35mm Jazz 3 Tortex. I'm coming back into focus now, so I can talk more about it. I like these because I don't drop them as much. Whatever the material is, it's not super slippery or anything like that, so when I hold it, it stays in place. It's nice and stiff, so that if I'm doing fast alternate picking or playing rhythm guitar, it's not going to bend around. And I've got a whole bunch of them sitting in a drawer, so I can just grab another one when I need it. And that's probably the biggest factor. I bulk bought a bunch of these. A viewer sent me some of theirs as well, so I've got a big stash. When I'm tracking heavy rhythm guitars, though, like I've done on basically all the ragdoll stuff, I like these green Dunlop, what are these, a .88 or something like that. They do sound a little bit different when you're in that environment where you can really isolate small changes. This just works, and shout out to friend of the channel, Mr. Troy Nababan, for getting me onto these. I always try to sneak it past him and play with one of these, and inevitably at some point during the session, they'll go, what sort of pick are you using? And then I'll try and pick this one up and we'll use it. And yeah, so these are probably the two that I've used the most. I've recorded a lot with this one, and then for everything else, this little guy. Ghost, the band, I got put onto them fairly early. I feel like right around the time their second album came out, a friend of mine in the States, we were touring at the time, we were staying with them, and they said, you got to check out this new band, Ghost. I think the song Secular Haze is what they showed me. And it was super, super cool. I was into it. It had this 70s Sabbathy vibe to it. It was just different. It felt like its own little self-contained universe. And now Ghost have done incredibly well for themselves. I would definitely say that Meliora is my favorite Ghost album. Sounds fantastic. There's probably my favorite Ghost songs on there, and I just like everything about it. Their more recent albums, I haven't listened to as much. My wife is a massive Ghost fan. She loves the theatrical aspect of it, a lot of the production. So I do listen to quite a lot of Ghost, and I know a lot of people maybe aren't as into the newer albums for various reasons, but I got to hand it to them for actually just doing new things and trying different things and creating this little universe for their fans to get into. So yeah, let me know your thoughts on Ghost. What's your favorite Ghost album? Do you like the new stuff? Is it not your cup of tea, or is it just getting better and better with every release? To me, they've gone from being this kind of like retro Sabbathy Alice Cooper thing to becoming, I don't know, just like a modern metal band that's very influenced by ABBA or something like that. While we're talking about bands with maybe a divisive fan base, have I seen the video with Dream Theater playing where allegedly James LaBrie is lip syncing? I haven't. Send it to me. My general attitude to lip syncing, though, is I don't really care that much. There's already so much automated stuff in big shows that, you know, maybe if James is going out and doing the entire gig and lip syncing it, they should maybe think about, you know, doing something else. But at the same time, does anyone really go to a Dream Theater show to see anything except Petrucci just absolutely dominate on the guitar? But yeah, I haven't seen the video, so I actually can't say. But, you know, I'm sure it's probably a couple of lines here or there, maybe on an older song or something like that. So send me the video, I'll check it out, and come and chat about it in Discord, and we can debate the merits and the ethics of having elements of your live show that are maybe pre-recorded. And I feel like there's so many bands that do this. You know, we've played with bands who aren't even big arena style bands who have most of their production on a backing track. Sounds really good out the front. Most people don't realize, and I've sat there on the side stage and been like, they're actually a pretty good raw live band. And others who I've gone, yeah, okay, most of the production is coming from the live tape. So yeah, again, I'm kind of agnostic about all this kind of stuff. I feel like there's better things I could be doing with my life than worrying about what James LaBrie or Dream Theater wants to do, but send me the video. My favorite Explorer player. This is a tricky one. My favorite Flying V player is really, really easy. That's Michael Schenker, you know, end of discussion, an absolute icon. Favorite Explorer player, maybe I'll keep with that German theme and I will actually go for Matthias Jabs. Because I find they're incredibly underrated as a lead player. The Scorpions are awesome, and they were always rocking an Explorer to go against Rudy's Flying Vs. So that, or maybe Alan Collins, or maybe James Hetfield. How do I go about selecting guitars to use in demo videos? For example, if I'm doing an XFX video or a demo of some pedals or rack gear, what I've found over the course of doing lots of videos is a lot of people just want the basic food groups. They want something single coily like a Strat. They want something kind of crunchy like a Les Paul. And if it's something that might cater to heavier tastes. They want something down-tuned or a 7-string. So that's why I've got those guitars in heavy rotation. A lot of the time, you want something that's kind of got a neutral character or maybe a familiar character to it so that you can hear the unique things the pedals are doing. If I was to do a demo video of an overdrive pedal and I used my Danelectro Coral sitar, I think a lot of people would just focus on the Coral sitar rather than the specific properties of the overdrive pedal. So yeah, I've definitely done videos with weird guitars before and then people complain about it all the time. So I just kind of go for the normcore choice nowadays. To round out today's video, what would be a good pedal platform amp? Depending on your budget, this is gonna entail a lot of different amplifiers. I would honestly say if you don't have a whole lot of money to spend, then grab something like a Boss Katana head, use the clean channel and you can run your pedal board into it and it will probably be pretty decent. Alternatively, if you get one of the Katanas with an effects loop, you could use the effects loop in as a power amp. If you're looking for a combo, I feel like the Fender Hot Rod Deluxe is a real classic choice and you find them absolutely everywhere. Again, this is just kind of something, it's like, what's the most base level thing that you're gonna find everywhere? The most typical choice, a Fender Deluxe or a Twin might be another good choice as well. I know a lot of people love the Roland JC120 or the Cube amps as well. I guess that is kind of covered by the Katana. I actually find the clean channel on a Marshall DSL 50 or 100 is pretty good. And once you start getting up into, the more upper echelons of tube amplifiers, then there's lots of amps that are designed to be run clean with pedals. I find a Mark Series clean channel or a rectifier clean channel can work really well there. Ultimately, I think what you want is something with a lot of clean headroom, so something that you can turn up really loud without the core tone actually getting distorted or imparting too much character into your sound, which is why people like David Gilmour used to use amps like Hiwatts. If you've ever played through a Hiwatt, they're the loudest, cleanest thing in the universe. That's it for this week's Q&A. If you have questions you would like me to answer on next week's video, put them in the comment section below. Again, if you want to support my channel, there's some links in the video description. You can join the Discord server using the link below. And you can also find some free stuff in there. Have a great weekend, be good to one another, and I'll see you all next week.